the one titled, "I Built 10 Schools Around the World."
And the baseline problem established right at the beginning of this source is, well, it's staggering.
It really is.
The document notes that over 200 million children globally lack access to a safe school facility.
200 million.
Yeah, 200 million. That number just completely sets the stakes for everything we're about to discuss today.
Definitely. But, what makes this source worth analyzing for you today isn't just the construction log.
Right, it's not just a list of buildings.
Exactly. It serves as this real-time blueprint of how modern digital-first philanthropy actually operates at scale.
Which is a totally different beast than traditional charity.
Oh, for sure. So the mission for today's deck dive is to deconstruct exactly how this works under the hood. Because, as the source proves, fixing global education is absolutely not just about hammering nails into wood.
Or just, putting up a chalkboard.
Right. It requires holistic, deeply integrated community building.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the sheer on-the-ground reality of their very first stop.
Which was in Ghana. And the narrative immediately introduces us to the physical decay of the existing infrastructure there.
Yeah, the very first school they visit is barely a building at all.
The transcript literally describes it as a rust bucket.
A rust bucket. It was in such terrible condition that government officials had already ordered it to be demolished.
Just for basic safety reasons.
So the team just tears it down completely and starts entirely fresh.
But then, right after that, in a nearby community, we see a totally different strategy.
Right, they find a school serving 250 kids.
And the conditions are abysmal. But the core structure is actually salvageable. So instead of a teardown, they execute this massive refurbishment.
Yeah, they install new ceilings, they pour new floors, add fresh paint.
And then they construct 2 brand new classrooms that those children had just never had access to before.
Plus, they bring in new desks and, notably, toys.
Oh, the toys!
Yeah, for kids who had never owned a toy in their entire lives. The transcript captures this incredible joy in that moment.
It's amazing. And this is where the story shifts. Just as you think the job is done, the team hits this massive hidden barrier.
A barrier that has absolutely nothing to do with building materials.
Right. The water crisis.
This is where the intervention has to shift gears entirely.
Because the source notes that for over a decade, this entire village had been pulling their daily water from a local river.
A highly contaminated river.
Yeah. And because of that contaminated water source, nearly 80% of the local population,
80%.
including the students, had parasitic worms in their intestines.
It's just horrifying. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of education, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, you cannot separate a student's academic outcomes from their physiological reality.
Right. I mean, you literally can't focus.
Exactly. A child suffering from a debilitating, energy-draining parasitic infection, they cannot focus on mathematics or reading comprehension.
They're just trying to survive the day.
Yes, so the intervention has to pivot away from mere construction and directly into public health.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, building a shiny new school for sick kids is it's like giving someone a state-of-the-art $1,000 smartphone, but forgetting to give them a battery.
That's a great way to put it.
The hardware looks incredible, right?
Yeah.
But it is fundamentally useless because the foundational power source, in this case basic human health, just isn't there.
Health is the absolute prerequisite for learning.
So what do?
Well, that mechanism explains their immediate next steps.
Yeah.
The team drills solar-powered wells.
And not just for the school grounds, right?
Exactly. For the thousands of surrounding community members, too, they build a dedicated water storage facility.
They also build bathrooms so that kids no longer have to use the woods during the school day.
Which is a huge hygiene upgrade.
Plus sinks with clean running water. But, if you are listening to this right now and you work in logistics or project management, your alarm bells are probably ringing.
Oh, absolutely. Because drilling a well is one thing.
Maintaining it is another.
Right. A solar-powered well is a complex piece of technology in a very remote area.
And that is the historical failure point of so many traditional charities, isn't it?
It really is. They drill a well, they take a smiling photo.
Post it online.
And then 6 months later, the pump breaks, nobody knows how to fix it, and the village goes right back to the river.
But by installing robust solar-powered systems and massive water storage, they're building resilient infrastructure.
They're addressing the reality that if a community is spending all its daily metabolic energy just surviving waterborne illnesses, education becomes a luxury they simply can't afford to pursue.
But solving that biological hurdle of parasites immediately exposes the very next bottleneck.
It's like peeling an onion.
Yeah. If you secure the perimeter, you clean the water, you get the kids healthy enough to actually learn, who is actually teaching them.
Right. People often forget that a school is a massive metabolic engine.
It consumes resources every single day.
You need human capital to run it. And those teachers are bound by the economic realities of their geography.
The transcript highlights this beautifully with 2 specific teachers in Ghana.
Joseph and Emmanuel.
Right. The principal reveals that these two men were spending a third of their entire salary,
Certificate.
plus an hour of travel time every single day just commuting to this remote school.
It was entirely unsustainable. I mean, that is a structural failure.
Yeah.
You can build the most beautiful classroom in the world, but if the local economics prevent you from retaining the talent to run it,
The building is useless.
completely useless.
So the team doesn't just give them like a small travel stipend.
No, they go way bigger.
They literally build Joseph and Emmanuel their own brand new house.
A massive apartment right on the school compound,
They wipe out the commute and the financial drain in one permanent structural move.
which is incredible.
Hmm.
But retaining teachers is only half the battle of fueling this metabolic engine.
You have to heal the students, too.
Literally, the food program.
Yes. This is where the logistical scope of the project really begins to expand beyond typical philanthropy.
They build a brand new commercial-grade kitchen on the school grounds.
And they don't just stock the pantry once for a nice video thumbnail.
No, they make a binding commitment.
They commit to providing a free school lunch to every single student, every single school day, all the way until May 2030.
A 5-year operational commitment,
Here's where it gets really interesting.
because it completely changes the dynamic.
Exactly. Traditional philanthropy is often a drop a check and leave situation. This is a 5-year commitment to an ongoing supply chain.
What's fascinating here is the systemic macroeconomic impact of that decision.
Break that down for us.
Well, feeding kids obviously nourishes their developing brains, which is critical for cognitive function.
Sure, biology again.
But economically, it acts as a massive behavioral incentive.
Oh, I imagine that completely changes the household math.
Entirely.
Like, if I am a parent living in extreme poverty, I'm no longer just sending my kid to school for some abstract long-term educational benefit.
Right, hoping it pays off in 10 years.
I'm sending them because it is an immediate daily economic relief for my household. I know my child will eat today.
It completely reframes the value proposition of attendance. It drives up those metrics naturally.
And the source actually proves that mechanism works.
Yeah, they mentioned an older feeding program.
Right, one they had set up a year prior at another location, and because of those guaranteed daily meals, school attendance had already jumped by 10%.
And was continuing to climb.
They even had to build 10 additional classrooms at another site, specifically because they anticipated this massive influx of students wanting food.
It creates this amazing self-reinforcing loop of positive outcomes. But, maintaining a 5-year supply chain for a commercial kitchen in rural Ghana.
That requires intense operational oversight.
Massive oversight.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Go for it.
Because traditional charities often argued that flooding a local, vulnerable economy with free outside resources like 5 years of free food can actually damage local agriculture or create a heavy dependency.
That's a very common critique, yes.
So how does an operation like this avoid just becoming a crutch?
The key is integrating the intervention into the broader economy of the region.
Okay.
The goal isn't just to drop imported rice from a helicopter, right? It is to stabilize the community's baseline needs so they can build their own economic momentum.
Which ties directly into how they address the local labor market in the source.
Exactly.
That brings us to the child labor issue. The transcript points out that by providing safe, well-resourced schools with guaranteed meals, kids are physically kept out of illegal child labor farms.
They have somewhere safe to be.
And the source includes this crucial note about Feastables, which is MrBeast's chocolate company, using something called living income reference prices for their farmers to remediate child labor.
Yes. We should really explain that term because it is vital to understanding the economics here.
Definitely. What is a living income reference price?
It's a specific economic tool. It means a corporate buyer isn't just paying the volatile bare minimum market rate for a commodity like cocoa.
Because Wall Street speculation can drive those prices way down, right?
Exactly, sometimes below the actual cost of production.
Wow.
Instead, the buyer calculates exactly how much a farmer needs to sustainably feed, clothe, and house their family.
So by paying that specific elevated rate, the farmer's household is shielded from market crashes.
Yes. And more importantly, the farmer doesn't have to pull their children out of school to work the fields just to survive.
It is a multi-pronged attack on systemic poverty.
It really is. You pull the kids out of the fields by providing a safe, compelling alternative with free food.
And you simultaneously ensure the adults working those fields are paid a living wage so the cycle doesn't just repeat itself.
But the financial scale required to do this is massive.
Oh, it's huge. On just one of these school compounds in Ghana, the team spent over $500,000.
With projections to cross the 1 million mark by the end of the year.
Just for that single community. It was such a massive infrastructural shift that the locals actually gave the creator the title Chief of Development.
Which is a totally fitting title for that level of intervention. But as we analyze the rest of the source material, it becomes clear that this holistic Ghana model isn't just some rigid template that gets copy-pasted across the globe.
Not at all. If you want to intervene in global education, you have to radically adapt to completely different environmental and cultural realities.
There is no one-size-fits-all blueprint.
We can really see this if we structure the rest of these builds around the specific frictions they faced. Like, let's look at environmental friction versus urban friction.
The geography entirely dictates the engineering. You have to design specifically for the friction points of the local environment.
Right. So let's start with the extreme environmental friction in Ecuador.
Oh, the logistics there were just wild.
Just to reach these isolated jungle communities, the supply chain required 2 plane rides,
2 planes,
a 3-hour boat ride, and a 1.5-hour off-road drive.
just to get to the site.
If you were managing that build, just getting concrete and steel there is a total nightmare.
Absolutely.
But once they got there, they realized the real enemy to learning wasn't the isolation, it was the climate.
The monsoon rains and the floodwaters.
Yeah. The existing schools had these weathered old tin roofs.
Which sounds charming until it rains.
Right. If you have ever stood under a tin roof during a heavy tropical downpour, you know the acoustics are brutal.
It is like trying to teach a class inside a snare drum.
The teachers said it was physically impossible to teach or hear anything.
And add to that, the seasonal floodwaters would rise knee-high inside the actual classrooms.
So a standard concrete block school built on a flat slab would fail instantly here.
The environment would either destroy it or just render it totally unusable for half the academic year. The engineering has to adapt to the reality of the water.
So they end up designing these bespoke, elevated schools on stilts to keep the kids completely out of the floodwaters.
It's a smart pivot.
And they replace the deafening tin with acoustic-friendly roofing, so the cognitive load of just trying to hear the teacher is finally removed.
They even engineered a highly secure metal bridge,
Oh, right, to replace that rotting, dangerous wooden one.
just so the hundreds of kids could actually cross the swollen river safely to get to class.
Now, contrast that severe jungle isolation with the next location, India.
A completely different world.
Here, the friction point isn't environmental isolation at all. It is extreme urban density and infrastructural danger.
Over 400 eager students were crammed into just 6 classrooms.
If you do the math on that, you are looking at roughly 66 kids per room.
Just imagine the thermal heat of 66 bodies in one room in India.
The lack of oxygen.
The inability for a teacher to do anything but basic crowd control. It is a terrible environment for actual learning.
But the danger outside the classroom was even worse.
Yeah, the commute.
These kids were walking over an hour in the pitch dark, navigating busy, highly aggressive traffic.
No, the intervention there requires a completely different logistical solution.
Right, an elevated building or a metal footbridge solves nothing in this context.
Exactly. To solve the severe overcrowding, they built a massive, brand new 3-story school.
And to solve the dangerous commute, they buy the school its very own bus.
The teachers explicitly mention how relieved they are that the girls, especially, will now arrive safely.
But again, think about the logistics. A bus requires gas, a hired driver, ongoing mechanical maintenance.
It is another long-term operational cost they are absorbing.
Which underscores the broader theme here.
That effective intervention requires extreme active listening.
You cannot impose a preconceived solution without understanding the distinct local problem.
And we see the result of that active listening in a Spanish-speaking town mentioned in the transcript.
Oh, this part was unbelievable. This entire town had to share a single school building for everyone from middle school all the way through high school.
The generational gap in one building was just chaotic.
And because of the lack of space, the principal had literally been forced to work out of her car for a decade.
A decade working from a car.
10 years.
That single detail speaks volumes about the absolute lack of foundational infrastructure.
So they respond by building the town's first ever dedicated high school.
And they use the next generation building material.
Right, this material that gets filled in with concrete, designed specifically so the structure will stand for generations.
Plus, they build the principal her very own office.
Finally getting her out of the sedan.
Yes. And they top the campus off with a brand new soccer field.
Then the source completely pivots back to the United States.
To Hope Creek Academy.
Right, highlighting a completely different type of educational need.
Hope Creek is a school specifically for students with neurodivergent needs.
And the data the team relied on showed that these particular students actually learn better and experience less anxiety outside in the wilderness.
Rather than being cramped together inside a traditional 4-walled room.
Right, a traditional blueprint with standard fluorescent lighting and acoustics actually works against their specific cognitive needs.
So they teamed up with volunteers from Lowe's.
And built this incredible outdoor learning center. The transcript refers to it as an earthly version of a playground.
It was designed to give these kids a safe canopy to play with nature, spark their imagination, and excel in a way a traditional classroom simply wouldn't allow.
Every single location required a totally unique approach. So what does this all mean? It's
Why?
basically the difference between trying to install a standard, rigid computer operating system on every single piece of tech you find versus writing custom code for a smartwatch, a smart fridge, and a drone.
The environment completely dictates the operating system.
Exactly. You cannot put an elevated jungle school in the US, and you definitely do not need an outdoor wilderness playground in a flooded rainforest.
Every single school was a bespoke engineering project.
And executing bespoke engineering projects across multiple continents simultaneously requires serious logistical firepower.
And massive capital.
If you are listening to this right now and doing the mental math on custom engineered schools, 5-year food supply chains, residential housing for teachers, and fleets of school buses.
You were probably wondering about the economic engine making this all possible.
Because the scale of the mobilization is immense, the total spend across these 10 schools was over $3 million.
Over 3 million.
And the long-term impact is projected to provide safe education to over 18,000 students over time.
18,000 kids.
At one point in the transcript, while they are using heavy machinery to lift the roof onto the high school, a volunteer looks around at the 50 people working and says, "We look like we're about to go to war."
Looking at the sheer scale, it really does resemble a massive logistical military operation.
But it is an operation funded by an incredibly unique economic engine.
This raises an important question about the democratization of charity.
How so?
In traditional philanthropy, a massive legacy foundation identifies a problem, spends months writing grants, and funds it quietly.
Behind closed doors.
Right. Here, the process is inverted and entirely public.
The viewers themselves are the ultimate donors, even if they never open their wallets.
It's all about attention.
The host of the video explicitly says at the end, the entire community's lives were changed because you guys watch these videos. You're why we can spend over $3 million. You're why we could build wells.
They're converting the attention economy clicks, watch time, ad revenue directly into concrete, school buses, and clean drinking water.
It is a remarkable translation of digital attention into physical, multi-generational infrastructure.
It creates a flywheel effect.
Right. The video funds the school generates compelling content.
The content gets views, and the views fund the next massive project.
And they leverage that massive audience to bring in corporate heavyweights to share the logistical load.
The source lists several big partners.
Yeah, T-Mobile stepped in through their Project 10 Million program, which focuses on education and connectivity.
You have Lowe's,
Who didn't just send lumber, by the way. They sent highly trained volunteers in red shirts, part of their larger commitment to over 2,000 impact projects and 200,000 volunteer hours nationwide.
You also have backing from the Rockefeller Foundation and the Televisa Foundation.
The creator acts as this central node, pulling resources from multinational corporations, philanthropic foundations, and millions of individual viewers, and then funneling all of that directly into targeted, hyper-local infrastructure.
It's an entirely new model.
So to bring this all back to you listening right now, what is the ultimate takeaway here?
What's the bottom line?
Being well-informed about modern problem-solving means understanding that it no longer operates in isolated silos.
Right.
It requires combining viral entertainment, massive corporate logistics, and incredibly deep systemic social work. It is absolute proof that addressing a single pain point, like a crumbling classroom, forces you to solve a dozen others.
Because you cannot fix the school without fixing the water, the food, the transit, and the local economy.
It proves how deeply interconnected these systems really are.
But as we wrap up, it also leaves us with a critical paradigm shift to consider.
Yeah.
We have seen the incredible power of converting YouTube views into life-saving infrastructure.
It is an amazing engine for good.
But if attention and virality are becoming the new currency to fund global infrastructure, especially the kind of infrastructure that local governments are failing to provide,
Right.
what happens to the desperately in-need communities whose struggles simply aren't considered visually dramatic or entertaining enough to make it into a viral video?
Wow. That really reframes how we look at the future of global development, doesn't it?
It really makes you wonder who gets left outside the algorithm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep asking the hard questions, keep looking past the surface, and we will catch you next time.